I hadn't even known Aunt Marla existed until the letter arrived. A thick, creased envelope, sealed with red wax, addressed to me in careful handwriting that felt too old for the modern world. The lawyer's note inside was brief and unsettling. Your late great-aunt Marla Hensley has named you the sole heir to her estate in Litchfield Hollow. Keys enclosed. The property is yours. I stared at it for a long while. I was a city girl, working remote tech support, no car, no family, save for my mother who'd passed 2 years earlier. I called every number listed on the letter to confirm it wasn't a scam. It wasn't. Litchfield Hollow was a forgotten village in the hills, tucked in a pocket of land no one had reason to visit anymore. A place not even Google Maps could show in full. The drive up was foggy and quiet, with no cell signal after mile 82. I followed the printed directions like it was 1994. The house greeted me through a curtain of mist, a large sloping roofed thing with peeling gray paint, sunken into the earth like it was trying to vanish. Ivy clung to the siding. The air smelled of damp stone and burnt pine. Inside, it was musty but intact. Every object looked like it hadn't moved in decades. The furniture had plastic covers. A mantel clock ticked. In the living room, I found a black and white photo of a woman I assumed was Marla, standing in front of the same house. But in her picture, the house looked new. There was something else in the photo, too. Behind her, far in the trees, almost out of frame, a shape, a blur, tall. At first, I thought it was a smudge on the glass, but no matter how I tilted it, the shape didn't move. That night, I lay in the old guest bedroom, listening to the woods, crickets, owls, and something else, soft, dry scratching beneath the floorboards. The scratching didn't stop. At first, I tried to ignore it, told myself it was just mice, but it wasn't skittering. It was pacing. 4 steps, pause. 4 steps again. Always from left to right, always beneath the same floorboard near my bed. The next morning, I pulled the rug aside and examined the plank. It looked normal, dusty, but solid. I knocked on it. Hollow. I went outside, walked around the house. No basement windows, no crawl space entry, just solid stone foundation and wild roots wrapped around the base like old fingers. The town was even quieter than the house. Litchfield Hollow consisted of a single narrow road with 5 houses, all seemingly unoccupied. At the end was an old general store with a faded "open" sign in the window. A bell rang when I stepped inside. An older man behind the counter looked up slowly. He wore a name tag. Harlan. You're the one who took Marla's place, he said before I even spoke. I hesitated. I guess I am. He stared for a beat too long. Be careful in that house. I blinked. Why? He shook his head. Things move in the soil there. Been that way a long time. Some things ain't supposed to wake up. Before I could ask more, he turned and walked into the back. I left with only a flashlight and batteries. That night, I tried not to listen. But at 3:13 a.m., I woke to silence. Then tap, tap, tap. The same 4 steps, same rhythm. This time louder. I sat up, heart pounding. The flashlight rolled off the nightstand. I picked it up and flicked it on. The floorboard near my bed was rising, slowly. Just slightly. Like pressure was being applied from below. I whispered to myself, it's just wood swelling, moisture, nothing else. Then I heard it, a whisper. Not a voice in my head, an actual whisper. Low and rasping, like someone breathing through a mouthful of dust. It said my name. I didn't sleep after that. At dawn, I pulled on boots, grabbed the flashlight, and went outside. Dew clung to everything like the land had been crying through the night. The grass around the house sloped unevenly, like the soil had settled strangely over time. Near the eastern wall, I found a patch where the ground looked too soft. Soggy. Disturbed. I knelt, pressed my fingers into the dirt. It gave way like sponge cake. My stomach turned. Something had been moving here recently. Burrowing, maybe. The prints were strange, too long to be paws, too narrow for human feet. 4 holes spaced perfectly, each sinking unnaturally deep. I dug. A few inches down, my fingers hit something hard. Wood. I cleared away more dirt, revealing an old hatch door, almost rotted through, with rusted hinges and a heavy iron latch that had snapped long ago. No wonder I hadn't seen it. It blended into the ground. I hesitated. Then I opened it. A smell hit me like wet copper and mold. The flashlight trembled in my hand as I pointed it downward into the dark space below. There were steps, stone steps, steep and slick, leading into a chamber beneath the house. I descended. The air was thick, unmoving. Every breath tasted old. The light revealed a small underground room, round like a silo, with stone walls covered in strange carvings. They weren't symbols I recognized, not words, more like scratches, clawed in deliberate patterns. In the center of the chamber was a wooden chair, rotted, broken. Tied to it, long crumbled into bone and dust, were ropes. And surrounding the chair, in a perfect circle, were candles, burnt down to stubs. The scratching hadn't been a pest. It had been a warning. I heard a sound behind me, something soft and wet, like breath through loose teeth. I turned the flashlight. There was a hole in the far wall, an uneven tunnel recently disturbed, soil still crumbling at the edges. And from inside it, I saw something watching me. Two pale, unblinking eyes, wide as coins, rooted in a face not meant to surface. I ran, slipped on the stone steps, hit my shoulder hard, but didn't stop. Slammed the hatch shut behind me, dragged a wheelbarrow over it, then stumbled back inside, heart thundering. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room, clutching the flashlight like it was a weapon. The ticking clock on the mantel sounded like a hammer in the quiet. At exactly 3:13 a.m., it stopped ticking. Then I heard it again, but not from below. This time, the voice came from the drains. First the kitchen sink, then the bathroom, then the floor vent near my feet. Dry, rasping, and deliberate. Come back, chosen. We remember your name. The air got thick, not cold, heavy, like something had filled the space between molecules. I couldn't move. My limbs felt pinned by invisible hands. In that moment, I realized something terrifying. It didn't want to kill me. It wanted to bind to me. I remembered the photo. Aunt Marla standing in front of the house with that tall blur in the background. She wasn't smiling. She was grim. She had been the last guardian. I dug through the house at dawn, through the attic, the basement closet, the drawer behind the fireplace panel. I found a journal wrapped in cloth, inside a hollow wall. Marla's handwriting. I broke the seal when I was 17. Thought the scratching was rats. By the time I understood, it was too late. It won't leave the earth, but it needs a mind. It speaks in breath. I held it. It made me sick, but it feared light and voice and faith. So I made a binding. Candles. Names. A circle. I sat in the chair for decades, whispering it back to sleep. There was one more line, scribbled violently. When I die, it'll come for you next. Don't answer it. My blood went cold. It had said my name, but I hadn't spoken back. Not yet. I knew what I had to do. I spent the day gathering what Marla described. Coarse salt from the general store, candles, white, not scented, and chalk. I ripped pages from her journal and copied the strange scratch mark sigils onto paper. My hands shook. My voice cracked reading the chants, but I whispered them anyway. Even if I didn't understand the language, the shape of the words felt right, felt like armor. By sunset, I stood over the hatch. The air had changed again, quieter, but not peaceful, like the house was holding its breath. I opened the hatch. The steps groaned. The deeper I went, the more I heard it. Whispers in the walls, pleading, bargaining, promising. My name, over and over from every direction. But I didn't answer. I reached the bottom and rebuilt the circle, salt in a ring. The chair replaced, barely strong enough to hold my weight. I placed the candles and lit them one by one, whispering the words. The old air stirred. The voice shifted tone. It began to scream, but not loud, desperate. It hated the light, hated my voice, hated my refusal. The eyes appeared in the tunnel again, but they didn't move, just watched, twitching. I met them without flinching. I didn't run this time. I spoke aloud. You are not mine, I am not yours. Return to the soil. The flames blew sideways, dust spiraled, the voice gurgled, moaned. Then it stopped. I don't know how long I sat there, maybe hours, maybe until the candles died. When I emerged, the sun was rising. The next night, the scratching didn't return, and never did again. Epilogue. A month passed, then 2. The house stayed quiet, warm. I opened the windows more, took walks. Litchfield Hollow began to feel less like a forgotten place and more like mine. Sometimes, when I walk past the hatch, I pause. The air down there is just air now. Still, I keep it sealed. Not out of fear, but respect. Whatever it was, it's bound again. And I understand now. Aunt Marla wasn't cursed. She was protecting us. And now, so am I.